And we are live. Welcome, viewers. Welcome, listeners, to another self-run episode with myself. We're continuing our discussion with my very good friend and guest, V for Vernon. Vernon Meigs, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing okay. It's kind of cold here in Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
It's a -8, I think, right now, last I checked. So
I've got a friend out there. She's up in Big Fork, so very north.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was -40 Fahrenheit.
I understand it could get that cold. Yeah. Like my wife claims that, it got as cold as Mars at one point or in Minnesota or something like that. Which I don't know, it could be true. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually snowing out here in Wales, but it's nothing like that. We're pretty close to zero, I think, at this point. Yeah. But I totally get it, and I love the beanie. It looks your Tim Pool is kind of coming out at this point.
Right. Yeah. I've had this since I was little, and I never stopped wearing it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, unlike you, I was raised in the Caribbean, so all my stuff is new. We obviously didn't need any of that back there.
Right.
But my friend, have you had a good week? Anything going on with you in this past couple of days?
Well, I've decided that I've kind of been giving myself too much work. So, I released a video recently on my YouTube channel. I said I was going to do just previous there, but I kind of decided last minute not to. But the upside is it got me almost double the amount of subscribers. Now we're talking, I'm at 27 now, so it's like I'm a nobody still, but so it's
more than most, trust me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good. Like that one video, I guess people resonated with it. I talked about men being death objects, in terms of the disposability, the precarious manhood, that kind of stuff. And I talked about women's agency too, and about men's intrinsic value, that kind of thing. I guess people liked it, so I'm glad. I wish I could do it often, but that's the thing, that's the problem here. I'm just kind of, let's just say, I'm realizing I need a break. I'm giving myself too much work, so there might be a bit of silence, except for fun things like this. And
awesome.
Right.
No, that's good. I haven't caught the video yet, but we were having a discussion beforehand. It's definitely a topic that needs to be expressed. Very recently in my home country of Trinidad and Tobago, there was a very tragic murder of a young lady. Okay. She was, was kidnapped and very, very gruesome details.
Sure, right.
And of course, the entire nation is in uproar.
Of course.
And they want more security, and it's all the speaking about, stop violence against women, all good things, all important things. But when you look at the statistics, of course, 99% of the violence is against men.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And, as much, I support, of course, we don't want violence against women.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these kind of virtue signaling people who are out screaming, I'm kind of like, just understand that you didn't do this for the boys. Okay?
Right. Yeah. Are women that much more, holy compared to men, right? Like, is it really not a tragedy? Is it kind of just, everyday run of the mill, life as usual? If it's, violence against men, maybe that's the part of the disdain against men. It's like, this happened last time. My wife,
good times.
Yeah, it's inevitable. So. But it's this kind of disdain they have of men that they're violent people, so we shouldn't care if violence is inflicted on them. Kind of an idea that is unconscious, and we just people just don't seem to care. It's kind of this expected kind of sort of thing. So that's just another in a long line of examples of this kind of disparity, of this difference in how we treat men and women.
Absolutely. And I mean, even a little closer to home, I mean, we were talking about your YouTube channel and myself as a YouTuber as well. I've been doing this for 4 years, and as you say, we're talking real topics, things that are interesting to people, and yet we know some girls are talking the same thing, and they're boom, like flying past the rest of us, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And more success to them. We're not knocking.
We're not, right?
Absolutely. But there is this culture that, hey, a pretty girl online the world is your oyster sort of thing. You know, what do you think about that?
Well, you know, what don't you think about it? You know, yeah. I mean, this is something that Elizabeth and I actually talked about in my Bitchute channel. It's not on YouTube. About the subject was, are we in it for the ideas, right? So are we, you know, going? So the subject of, you know, are we paying attention to these women for their ideas was brought up, and we discussed that a bit. And, you know, you'd have to wonder when it comes to the audiences of women, right? It's like it's almost that it's a combination of two things. It's, of course, the one, they may be hot, you know, they want to kind of go for that kind of stuff. But second, they might think that women are generally powerless, so they need more and more support and more attention, willing, you know, purposefully more than you give to men. You know, you'd expect men to just get all the attention by default, and the reality, the opposite's true.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's I mean, it's kind of disheartening at the same time. You know, I mean, for me, I've been doing this for, I don't know, for maybe 4 years now.
yeah, you mentioned 4 years. Yeah.
There's another channel that I was actually a guest on.
Mhm.
I think they've changed the name of it. It's now called What's Happening, and it's Happa. It was, you know, the whole, you know, half
Oh
Asian,
yeah, yeah, right.
So it's two friends of mine out there, and we've been in competition. Like, my channel and their channel have kind of been fighting it out.
Mhm.
But there's a cute girl on their channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm, you know, who wants to look at my mug, you know? But it is a reality. It is a reality. But I mean, more recently in the US, there's been a bit of controversy. I think we could probably touch on this in the entertainment industry, which is kind of a reverse of what you would expect. I don't know how familiar you are with the Gina Carano incident.
Right. Just whatever everybody else has been saying, because I know it's getting a lot of traction, the subject. So here's my understanding of it. So there was, you know, they've been wanting to get rid of her for some, Disney, I would say, has been wanting to get rid of her for some time, and I guess they finally found some kind of an excuse or something like that. Maybe, you know, I think the thing that did it was she had a tweet about comparing this kind of cancel culture, witch hunting, and, like, you know, persecuting of people with different political beliefs than the status quo as Nazism or something.
Yeah.
And you know, but you know, Disney was going to keep people who had said more egregious things. You know. So,
yeah, quite right.
Right. So I guess that's my, you know, rudimentary understanding of the subject. And she's kind of also been trending because she's been getting back, almost immediately getting back up and having like some film kind of deal, I guess it is, with Ben Shapiro of all people. Is that right?
Yeah. The Daily Wire. So, I mean, you summed it up nicely, but it actually shows a little bit of the hypocrisy of the feminism, leftist, progressive kind of view, who all espouse, you know, we must support women, you know, trust women, believe women, encourage women. And then you have a woman who's expressed, and it wasn't even a controversial tweet. It was basically saying, we can't be ratting on our neighbors, and we can't be canceling people based on politics, because this is what led to the atrocities of the Second World War.
Exactly.
That's not a controversial position, to be very honest.
Right, it's not.
And she got fired. She was dropped from her agency. I think UTA is the whatever, you know, they represent the actresses and actors. And where's all the feminist outcry? Where's all the pussy hats? And where is the, you know, who's occupying the chambers in California? You know, none of that. Silence.
Exactly. Right.
And I think, yeah, that's what disturbs me. But as you say, she did get a job. I don't know if you've seen the movie that recently came out from them. I think it's, what is it? Hide, Run, Fight, or something like that.
I don't follow the movie industry that much nowadays. I guess the most modern thing I've ever watched was the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which was okay, which was pretty good. I honestly thought it was pretty good. But aside from that, I'm just not excited about movies anymore. You know, it's just like it looks like a whole train wreck out there. So I just haven't been paying attention to that side of the entertainment world. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this was not bad. I watched it. It's basically a school shooting story. and it is a young girl, and it comes from a very conservative position. It's kind of like, stand up for yourself,
Right.
be the hero. And it had a couple of the check boxes, there's diversity representation, but it wasn't overt. It worked. It was entertaining. So if you do get the chance, I recommend it.
What's the movie called?
I think it's Run, Hide, Fight, or Hide, Run, Fight. One of the two.
Okay.
I'll find the trailer and I'll send it to you.
All right, sounds good. Yeah.
So, but they're doing exactly what they have to do because the progressives have basically taken over Hollywood. They're trying to be a counter voice to that. So it's very patriotic movies.
It seems kind of like a gradual reversal. I don't know how gradual, but like back in the days of the black and white movies, I guess they were more Republican. I thought the actors, for the most part, Democrats were kind of few, but that's been. I don't know if it was a sudden change or a gradual change, but it's been completely flipped, and now it's just a complete propaganda machine. I think for leftist idealism.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, the days of Cecil B. DeMille and the Ten Commandments, and
right.
There was all these decency laws for the actors and stuff. All of that's definitely, and it's been worse for the for the last 5-10 years. So I don't blame you for staying away from the entertainment industry. It's a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm trying. I can recognize all these woke things, but I know some kind of conservative people who are kind of, I won't name names for reasons of tact, but just people in my life. It's just kind of like you don't get the whole woke thing, and they're going like, hey, the new Wonder Woman movies, I want to watch it. Come on.
Well, the new one sucks.
Well, yeah, I've heard it sucks. I was never big into Wonder Woman anyway. I guess I wasn't a big superhero guy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
The first one was all right. The second one definitely was garbage.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, back on the issues of feminism and men's rights and all this topic that's very close to your heart. I wanted to continue our conversation from last week, discussing about how we see feminism dealing with the dating and the relationship arena. I don't know. You could share your relationship status. I don't think you're quite the demographic that's affected by this, but what do you see coming down for young men and women, in this new progressive era?
Well, the idea that, anything other than enthusiastic consent, I suppose, it would constitute rape, that kind of thing. That's kind of seeping into the everyday consciousness, I think, that, or at least that's my worry that it will. And I guess people want men to be assertive and stuff like that, but they also want to, at the same time, kind of be this kind of perfect, harmless sort of kind of a guy, I think. I know that sounds kind of that's a weird way of putting it, but it's like, we're entering a confusing kind of an era. It's dangerous for the man, it's like it's something that can't really afford to be so confusing for us guys. Right. So I mean, I don't. So you mentioned my relationship status. Well, I've been married for some years now, and well, at the time, she was more of a men's issues and anti-feminist person than I was at the time. So on that subject, at least we hit it off. And well, everything was kind of casual. It was like not a big deal. It's like, we just went to dinner because we wanted to. And so we were long distancing for a while, right? And because of work stuff.
Sure.
And I wasn't even from Minnesota at the time. So I'm a very rare case of a long distance relationship really working out. But so, we wanted to just, keep on talking about whatever, because I had a lot to share. She did too. And one thing we did during my time in, well, this is when I was in Fairfax, Virginia, for work reasons. And, what we did was, well, one day out of the blue, I said, I want to see the MASH show for the first time. Do you want to watch it with me? And, we bought a season of MASH each on our own end and watched it together, like long distance.
Cool.
And commented on the episode and that kind of stuff. Right? So that was one way we kept it going. And, well, ultimately it worked out. You know, it's not something I would either advise or disadvise. I don't know. You know, you make the call on that one, but because I consider myself to be a rarity when it comes to
I mean, obviously that's a fantastic story. Did you date before that? Did you encounter any of this progressive kind of stuff with the ladies?
Well, here's the thing. Like, you know, I might have been a very nerdy guy. I had the same long hair. I listened to bands and stuff like that. I wasn't exactly date material to begin with, right?
Oh, don't sell yourself short, bro.
Right. Well, you know, but you know, I've had my fair share, right? So well, obviously didn't work out, but you know, so there's one thing that actually sticks to mind, actually. You know, obviously, you know, I haven't had it as bad as most people who entered the men's movement as a sort of response to the injustices they suffered, right?
Yes.
But the closest thing I got to a false accusation, it's something that didn't really ultimately amount to anything. I didn't get into trouble or anything like that, right? But it was my first girlfriend. My first real date that was not a restaurant, right? We went ice skating, and basically, so we were ice skating. Basically, now I like grabbing women's asses as much as the next guy, right?
Absolutely,
right.
Amen.
Right, but here's what I don't like: doing it in public.
Fair enough.
Right. Yeah. I don't like doing stuff like that in public.
Or for me, I don't mind doing it in public, but it's got to be subtle. It's got to be a way you cannot. It's just between you and her kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So she basically, wanted me to grab her ass because she wanted to show off to some guy that was looking kind of show offy in the ice skating ring. Right.
Right. Okay.
I didn't want to do it, but I kind of made myself do it at the time. Right. Right. And that's all I had to say on that one. But the next, I suppose it was the next day, she kind of decided we were going too fast and wanted to break it off, right? Right. And well, that's that. But some days later, this guy that was someone we mutually know, unfriended me on MySpace. This was the MySpace era.
MySpace days,
right.
Yes.
Right, and told me that I don't like you anymore because the girl who we both know told me I grabbed her ass, and that's why we broke up.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And I was able to actually explain to her that's not what happened. So nothing terrible came out of that one, except the fact that I was upset that she would lie about this kind of thing. So I mean, women seem to feel like they can get away with stuff like that.
And many times they do, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, neither of us is condoning actual violence, actual, sexual assault or anything like that. But what was lost, and I had this conversation with both Elizabeth and Greta about the destruction of seduction, which is such a huge part of the male-female, the dating game, the mating game, however you want to put it.
Exactly. Yeah, the chase.
The chase, right? And when it's done well, if you see like the great seducers, you read of Lord Byron and these others, it's an unspoken language, right? It's tone, it's facial expressions, it's the use of your words, very suggestive. In fact, anybody sees my Facebook recently, I got this fantastic gift of cookies that are vaginas, right? They're like,
you posted it on Gab. I saw it.
Yeah, I posted it on Gab as well, right? So I got it, and my comment said, "Oh, these are so sweet and delicious," right?
Mm-hmm.
And the girl who actually made the cookies is just having fits of laughter, and I'm getting comment, and everybody's playing on the words, right?
Right, yeah.
That is part of, in a more intimate setting, that would be part of the seduction. It's innuendo, it's all these things. But in light of cancel culture and the Me Too movement and all these things, that's been destroyed. You can't do subtle, you can't do innuendo,
and you
gotta
can't
be direct.
And you can't make mistakes anymore either, because
Correct.
we everybody, especially us guys, we make mistakes, but that could mean terrible consequences if the woman decides to suddenly decide to act on it after a long stretch of time, right?
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct.
Right.
And we're seeing it more and more, you know, the whole enthusiastic consent. And I remember I was listening to some lady talk about, you know, she was with this guy and everything, they're getting intimate and everything is like, may I do this? May I now touch you? You know,
Exactly.
like a checklist. How boring.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, and this leads us into the next issue. I mean, have you any comments on the risk of divorce, especially in the US and the Western world? I mean, heaven forbid in your circumstance, but you've obviously seen a lot of men enter the men's rights space as a result of some of the very aggressive divorce laws. I mean, what have you seen? What have you heard? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm not terribly educated on the law side of things, so I don't know how much I can comment on that one. I'm just listening. I'm trying to get educated myself more, you know, listening to people's experiences. But you know, it looks like a complete train wreck. I'm not really seeing any reason for any man to actually get married. In fact, like whenever I see some poor guy saying, "Oh, I really want to marry that hot chick," you know, like, you dimwit, you know. Right. So there's still that mentality that, you know, that you're doomed to marriage. I suppose you're doomed to marry if you're lucky to marry, you know.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot to say about that one. I'm obviously not well versed on it. There's other people that could speak more on it, but something I'm trying to get more in tune with, of course. Yeah, but that's what I can say, that, you know, there's horrible consequences. You know, just the idea that women can just completely swindle all that money off their ex-husbands is just well, it's horrific, right? I mean, and we don't we have this mentality where, you know, the men must have deserved it or something like that, or everything that a woman says is right, therefore this is a deserved situation, and it's a complete industry to kind of, you know, in terms of the law, you know, to do this kind of stuff. It's big business, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there's a documentary came out, Divorce Incorporated, a couple years, that really kind of exposed how bad, you know, a good friend of mine, I think he was in California, where it's really bad, and he had some good money. And, you know, somebody was coming up to him and was like, "Oh my God, you're going to have to give her half." And he said, "Half? I have to give 2/3. 1/3 goes to the wife, 1/3 goes to the lawyers, and I'm left on 1/3. And I mean, I know some actors and others have fled the country. What was his, one of the, I think it's Foley or something like that. He was very big in the 90s. He fled to Canada because he was a big actor in the 90s. He's not acting anymore. He was in Tommy Boy and a couple of the. And
I can't think of the name off the top.
Yeah, I know it's Foley or Farley or stuff. It's kind of skinny blonde guy. Well, he's not as skinny anymore, but
Frawley, was it?
Might be something like that. Anybody look up Tommy Boy, and he was not the fat one. He was the skinny kind of one he was playing against.
Okay.
And yeah, he fled the country because, you know, even though he wasn't making the income he was back in the 90s, the court still demanded he maintain those levels of alimony payments and payments to the wife, even though he was pretty much out of work. He's never going to make that money again. And a lot of men end up in that trap. And unfortunately, a lot of men take their lives as a result of these things.
Right.
And it's not really spoken about. And I love the fact that you're saying, you know, for men who might want to say they want to get married, there's a lot of risk. And you even though you are married, much like Rollo Tomasi, I don't know if you know Rollo Tomasi.
I know who he is. Yeah, yes. I know you did a show with him. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So he's the author of The Rational Male. Very similar to you. He's married as well, but he has the same advice, like, don't get married.
Right.
And if you do, understand the risk.
Sure.
Like, don't go blind.
Right, because when it comes to the risk, it's not just the risk of divorce. It's just the risk of having your soul crushed in the marriage.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. A sexless marriage, or
Yeah, you're right.
abusive.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
people, like there's a lot of marriage advocates, even in the anti-feminist side, that kind of go on about, if you really want to be a real man, get married and have something to support and stuff like that. But here's the thing, I'm not. I'm really, if there's anything I'm against, it's the sacrifice of one's dreams.
right.
And so if you must marry, be sure that the marriage is something that could uh, be a part of the dream, and two, like lift up any of the dreams you've had, and want to make good on. So if you must go into it for the right reasons,
Yes.
right? And be sure that your significant other is someone that can be, so you can be completely honest with you, and it helps if she understands the men's issues as well, and so yeah, that's I'm going off, it's not what I call professional advice, but just based on what I think right now. So.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's there's a lot of what they call the tradcons, the traditional conservatives, who kind of push this idea.
They do.
Yeah, and fine. Apparently, a couple of people have made that work. People have traditional values, sometimes shared religious values, and other things. These things all can help.
Well, it's the kind of thing that it'll work among people who agree with each other, but to institute it as like a vast solution to all issues, well, you got to keep it optional if you must do it, right? Don't make it this kind of mandatory kind of a thing, right? And it's always on a case-by-case basis, isn't it? People make things work for each other, and it's not really about the system you're choosing, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think for me, okay, so I'm 40 years old as of last year, and never married, no kids. And I think the only reason I would get married is to have kids,
right?
Because I believe that a child needs the mother and the father, sort of scenario.
Right.
So if that was really the path that I was going on, I would probably, that's when I would consider it. But even then, I would look at jurisdiction. I would look at the laws of whatever country I'm in. I probably wouldn't stay in the West. I may even go back to the Caribbean, where it's a lot more equitable and these sorts of things.
Yeah, like if while you were talking, I was trying to brainstorm some kind of alternatives that could keep the family together while avoiding the marriage, the legal marriage part.
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
I don't know, maybe just live in very close proximity, I guess, maybe, because I really like the idea of both sides having their own place to call their own,
Yeah.
and to sustain and that kind of stuff. So I'm this is the individualist side saying, both, own your own space, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there's some skepticism I have about the idea of cohabitation in most situations. But it's like, I understand what you're saying. Maybe you would be married in that case. You would choose to marry in that case. But I suppose there's a lot of thought due to the subject. Can we make that family situation work while preserving the individualism and the going your own way thing of both of the man and the woman? Because if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's important, and this is probably a part of the downfall of marriages. Men tend to give up a lot in terms of their ambition, their dreams, hobbies, friends.
Right.
Which we, as men, we need all of those things. So, you can't just sacrifice all of that on the altar of your wife, sort of thing.
Precisely. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, never rush things, never marry because she's the hottie or something like that, or she was nice on one occasion. We don't know her entire personality. Get to know her, that kind of thing in terms of the, be sure everything that all the ideas you're exchanging and interests that you're exchanging, they click, right? So so it gets to a point where even cohabitation is a fine thing, right? Recently, I've been taken to teaching my wife Magic the Gathering, and
nice.
She's actually managing to have some kind of fun with it. So
I mean, that shared hobbies and all those things are very important.
Right.
Like I know a couple, they live on Dungeons and Dragons. Like that, that's
Right.
their whole world.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, even and we could probably briefly touch on the issue of faith and
Sure.
religious differences. I mean, do you have a personal faith of any kind?
Um, I don't, and I don't see myself as really utilizing faith in the religious sense at all.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yes, simply put, I have confidence in my ability and aim as an individual. I don't know if I would call that faith because, well, I guess there's different things that entail it when it comes to the religious faith, and somebody like me who's like basically an objectivist. So
Yeah, fantastic. But I mean, this is your partner on a similar wavelength?
yeah, we actually initially connected because we were both big time Ayn Rand fans, and and she was I don't know. She called actually she's studying more stoicism rather than anything else. I think she's been doing some reading on that one, so she'll know more about that than I do. But but I'm more the objectivist. She's kind of she's in some ways objectivist, but I think she's more immersed in stoicism, I think.
So she's doing like Marcus Aurelius and
Right,
reading
right.
these guys. Yeah, some of the
Yeah, yeah,
classics.
right.
But I mean, there's a lot of crossover between the stoicism
There
and
is, yeah.
objectivism, and I think that's the most important thing. So I mean, I do come from a Christian background.
Of
I'm
course,
not
yeah.
really practicing much anymore, but I know all the theology and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Right.
And I think it's important, like you say, even if it's not a religious faith, you do need some kind of compatible ideology.
Well, you need a philosophy. That's the
Right,
way.
fair. Yeah, it's a
Right,
good
right.
word.
So, religion comes with its philosophy, and and philosophy comes out of it. Morality, both, now here's the big mistake. Is
Yeah,
that the non-religious have no morality, or atheists have no morality.
no, that's not true.
I don't think that's true. Um, did you have any thoughts on that one, or?
I mean, I have a friend who's really fighting down. No, I don't think we're all moral creatures. Atheists, agnostics, we all have a framework of morality. The question and the argument comes from, where does the morality come from?
Right.
It's not a debate that I think it has to be answered. I think we could all acknowledge it exists.
Mhm.
But that's where the debate would be. The religious will obviously say, there must be a moral agent to implant morality. I guess the agnostic or the atheist will try to say, well, no, these are cultural norms that have come up through evolution and social evolution and other things.
And then you got people like me who disagree with both
Oh, good. What's your position?
Okay, so well, morality is just is for me is about like the guidelines as to uh, basically live a great life for yourself, and it's basically what is good for you as man and people as men and women, right? And so it's different from the Sam Harris position of, oh, you can just use logic or something like that to come up with morality, because the problem with that is that's a utilitarian argument of
Correct.
what does supposedly what they decide is the most good, which oftentimes is not, in my opinion, individualistic. It's more about the greater good, that kind of thing. So you'll
Yes.
notice how these kind of so-called skeptics tend to be more left-leaning a lot of the time, and they think they can plan society according to that logic-based morals. Everything okay on your end? You were kind of looking around.
Yeah. My screen just flickered on this side.
Okay, right. But then I'm disagreeing with the what I think is the most of the religious side, which says that morality comes from God. Now, you tell me, is God the moral agent, or are you the moral agent?
Well, the morality is objective. It's almost like human beings have a conscience. We call it a conscience.
Sure, right.
And so that would be the reason we have that, is because, in the theology would be that God created us as a moral agent to give us that's the thinking.
Right. But the way I see it is that morality more I do need to kind of like, it's
get your thoughts. I mean, we didn't really plan to have this conversation.
Exactly, right. But I guess what's moral is anything that well, I've already said this. Promote your
Yeah.
life as an individual. So anything that works against it is immoral.
Sure.
I think. Right. Right. And that's a very crude way of putting it, like off the fly. But maybe this is a subject we can plan ahead on at some point.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a extraneous thing, because I would say that morality is not what you call subjective. I may agree that it has some objectivity, but
Sure.
here's the real question: to what end is the morals
Sure.
right going to work towards? And I think that's the more important question than where it comes from.
Fair enough. Fair. As I say, that's a much bigger question, and there are people way smarter than us that have been, trying to figure this stuff out for millennia, as far as I could understand. I know Stefan Molyneux has taken a crack at it. As you said, Harris has tried as well.
Right.
I'm unconcerned, to be very honest. I think as a society we're functioning pretty well with whether it comes from a divine creator, or if it comes from, social conditioning, or if it, as you say, comes from a rational breakdown of human flourishing.
So it's starting to coalesce a bit. So it comes from the values that you have, I think.
Right.
So yeah, there is some differences as to what those values are, right?
Yes.
But I think morality is something that follows from the values. So I guess then the question is, where did the values come from?
It's an ongoing argument, and even then it's a question of what if somebody's values don't lie. You could say it does. Something could be. It will never be as simple as saying this is wrong. Right. It would just be, oh, this is something against my values. So it's not as powerful. But maybe one day we'll have. I'm not an expert on this, but it is a good discussion.
Discussion, and it's well, I think that's what skepticism is all about. It's about questioning. It's not about denial per se. I think that's a big mistake people make, that like you're saying, oh, you're a skeptic, well, you just don't believe. Well, it's not just that they don't believe, it's that they want to know what the case for X or Y is, and it's just that he's not going to accept it just because somebody said it. That's all.
Correct.
So,
right. I completely agree. And these are hugely philosophical questions that man has been struggling with for eons, right? And as I agree with you, I think there's a lot of room for debate. There's a lot of room for the questioning and these other things. I want to bring it back to the politics, though. I mean, we discussed like a lot of your wife is dealing with stoicism, the classics, and understanding these deep moral questions. On the political side, and we're seeing, especially with the feminist movement and the trans rights and the trans movements as well, there seems to be an attempt to kind of undermine a lot of the scientific foundations of what is a man, what is a woman. I mean, have you experienced any of that, and any thoughts on the issue of like trans rights and, men can breastfeed and other things?
Well, yeah, it's definitely one of those polarizing things, the trans.
Yeah, we're about to get in trouble.
Yeah, like now it's like I could think that the whole pronouns thing is mostly nonsense, but if I would admit that in public, I could get in a lot of trouble now.
They'll stone you to death. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Yeah. Like, see how could this not go wrong? Me trying to talk about this sort of thing, right? So there's a lot of people, saying that, if somebody decides that they're a woman because of the transitioning, then they're gonna refer to them as the gender they transition into in terms of pronouns. But I don't know. Am I evil for saying that I still am not convinced enough to kind of really practice that? Like, when a guy becomes a girl, it's like I still like, I know who you were. So,
I think in that scenario where you knew the person beforehand, it is that much harder. And I would agree. If you meet the person, like I know a couple trans women. So they were born male and they transitioned to female.
Right.
But I met them like that. I met them already kind of, with some surgery and other things and stuff like that. And then I've met some that haven't even gone that far. They basically look like men still. They may have long hair.
Right.
So
yeah, like, because here's the thing, like, you have to put as much work as someone like Blair White before I call you her, she, or that kind of thing. If you
yeah,
were a man, right? So like, yeah, so it's one of those things that, I even to this day I'm still trying to mold this whole thing over. It's, and when it comes to like people who, and look at me, I got long hair, and I don't watch the Super Bowl,
you're not a real man.
right, right, yeah. So but that's the thing. It's like, here's the thing: both masculinity and femininity are more multifaceted than people want to, probably admit. I think, it's funny. It's like the trans activist people. I'm not saying that the trans people, but the trans activist people,
Yes.
Are probably more rigid in defining masculinity and femininity than any traditionalist is, because they decided this is the way of masculinity, this is the way of femininity, and so any slight deviation means you're like the 350th gender or something.
Right.
So yeah, so yeah, like yeah, I think that whole, it's like they're trying to form a group. They're trying to form multiple groups that consist of one or two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
trying to make it that much more granular in terms of gender, which it's getting way too out of hand. I heard this some silly thing about a coral reef having like having the most genders or something like that. How do you define what the gender is then? Do they all have a part in the reproductive process? I mean, come on, like it's just,
it's definitely brain racking, and I think I think you guys in the US are probably experiencing the same kind of loopiness that we have here.
Right.
I heard that your speaker Nancy Pelosi wants to like get rid of gendered language in the laws, and there is this push for it out there. Even out here in the UK, I think Brighton or one of these places, the NHS Trust, which is the National Health Service,
Yeah.
they have put out recommendations about breastfeeding. So it's no longer breastfeeding, it's chest feeding.
Yeah. I've seen that trend.
Yeah. And it's no longer birth mother, it's birth person. And it just, I mean, it really kind of pulls at the sign. Oh, you're hearing my neighbor kind of screaming downstairs. He's got he's got asthma. So right. Nobody's hurt anybody watching the screen. That's what's going on.
But I think this sort of thing is kind of a long time coming, I think, because before it wasn't even just the trans thing, it was just the men and women kind of a thing. Like,
yes.
It's not fireman, it's fire person or something like that. And back then it was a bit of a joke too, but I guess it got more serious, and now it's turned into this trans thing. So
yeah, no, definitely. And what I'm interested in, and maybe you can share your thoughts on this, with the rise of the trans activism and the push for trans rights, how is this going to affect the marriage and the divorce laws? Because now it's not going to be as clear who's the male, the female, and these other things.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. That's a very nuanced topic, but.
Well, it's hard to predict how exactly it will go, but one thing I'm sure of is that regular men is still going to get the shaft. They're still going to, right. No matter what happens, that will be a constant, I think.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think which is probably why marriage is on the decline in the Western world anyway. Right. I think, the way you're thinking, I'm thinking, the message is getting out there that, this is not a great deal for men. The push for same-sex marriages and trans marriages and all these different types of things has kind of exposed a lot of these issues. Like a gay couple that's getting divorced, how do you divide that, for instance?
Yeah, and coming from a libertarian standpoint, I've never been for the idea of getting the government involved in marriages to begin with. Right. Yes. Now, my position's evolved since then. That avoid marriage altogether if you can, whether the government's involved in it or not. But but then again, if the government's not involved, I guess you're, well, I don't know, but my guess is that you'll be less prone to being screwed over in a litigious kind of a way, I think. No, I could be wrong. I don't know. So, but it's like it was so bizarre to me to see all these kind of, gays and transsexual people kind of clamoring for government to care about their marriage.
Yeah.
For getting the state involved. I
Yeah.
suppose, I mean, I think statism is a bigger problem than most people seem to realize when it is kind of in this sort of thing. So, yeah, it's like that's the whole thing. Like, get the government not involved, and you can probably have more freedom to marry if you so choose to.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people don't know that the whole going to get a marriage license and all is a very relatively new phenomenon in the modern world. It's only been maybe a couple hundred, 100 years,
Right.
if that. So in the past, you kind of shack up with whoever.
Yeah.
You would then inform them, oh, we're married.
Mhm.
You didn't do it in reverse.
Right.
So I completely agree with you that seeing as these people are pushing to get the state involved in these marriages and so forth,
Right.
not entirely surprised, because the left tends to see government as the moral giver.
Exactly right. Like it's it's the thing that makes it official. It's the objective reality, the leftist version. Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So right.
So that's the, and I'm not against it. I'm, there are certain benefits to marriage. So for instance, if one of your spouses in the hospital, you are permitted to visit.
Yeah, it's those small benefits that probably made me me and her decide to marry, and right. So it was these practical and that kind of things. It was subject to discussion at the time, right?
Right.
There was no stupid, going down on my knees. Will you marry me with this expensive ring? Kind of a moment.
Oh, you didn't do that. Oh no. Very practical.
No. We talked about in a very kind of logistic kind of a way. Oh, should we do this? Should we do that? Oh, but maybe the job benefits will be okay.
Tax benefits. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So none of that. Putting yourself lower, putting her on a pedestal, bullshit.
Good.
Right. And I don't know if I told you this on the last live stream, but I think we spent only like $100, $200 on the marriage license, and we got some justice of the peace. Nobody knew we got married until we announced it, and it was only our immediate families. We kept it hidden. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's just it was kind of like a get this thing over with. Let's go have dinner with the family and just go home kind of thing.
I love it. I mean, that's very practical, and and basically that's how marriage used to be. You meet up with you might go to the priest or your local church or whatever and just kind of inform them, and they'd have like the birth registries and other things. But yeah, it was kind of a very personal and very private thing.
Right.
Now it's been kicked into the political arena, and
it's been kicked into the political arena, and it's also turned into such a spectacle. It's like they want to have this gigantic wedding or something like that. Do what you want, but the budget must be huge. You know what I would do with that budget? Better, musical equipment, like a
down payment for a house. I mean,
Yeah, right. Yeah, which we're trying to work on right now. So it's what isn't there to think about this subject?
I mean, a lot of the major spectacle, I don't know how true this is, but when Queen Elizabeth got married, the present queen, back in the 1930s, was it 40s or late 30s, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly. Right. That was like the first televised wedding. And that's where the tradition of the white dress and all of it, because she wore the white dress. And so a lot of these traditions that we have are actually a fallout from the royal wedding. Exactly to your point, that before it was quiet and all this, and now it's become a spectacle.
Right. Like when, whenever princess or prince, whoever the hell is having their I don't even get the names right. Having their wedding, everybody's talking about, oh, what a nice dress and stuff like that. you know, I'm just kind of biting my tongue and just, you idiot. Who gives an ass, you know?
Right. I mean, especially for the Americans, y'all haven't given a shit about the royal family since 1776. So,
Well, maybe I don't, but you know, it's like there are people who kind of dote on this kind of thing, and you know, it's
yeah,
kind of uh, you know,
yeah, it's
needless to say, it's not my thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for you guys, at least back in probably the early days, you know, your Hollywood was kind of considered the royalty of the Americans, right?
I think so. Yeah, right,
Yeah, yeah, probably in like in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. You know, sports. I think the sports people personalities are kind of coming up to that kind of
right,
echelon. So in the UK, they'll give you a lordship, but if you're somebody in the US, you own a sports team, right? So,
right. Yeah,
so it's interesting how you know just the different cultures work
right.
things
Yeah,
out.
in a way, the you know, there's something to like about that American side of thing, where it's, you know, it's about, you know, the business transactions, that
Yes.
kind of thing, right? Yeah. There's a lot of fun to that kind of thing. It's just, but too much business here in the United States, you know, I will never say it's a free market now.
No.
I won't say that, but you know, you know, they're, you know, steeped in government cronyism, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's something that, you know, I want to like in theory if it was a free market, but you know, I just know it's not, so I just can't stand it.
No, I agree. I mean, and maybe we could probably, you know, round it up. We only got about 10, 15 minutes left. But maybe we
Already?
could, yeah, I know time flies, man. We might have to do another one.
Well, we have to
Um,
do like 10 more.
yeah. But on that very point, we are seeing in the US, and I mean, we have it in the UK as well. I'm not going to deny it.
Sure.
Maybe not as prolific. The merger of business and government,
Right.
basically, as you say, cronyism or corporatism,
Right.
and
Exactly.
we're seeing that now filter even into your democratic process. So in the recent election,
Yeah.
we saw you know the cabal, or however you want to say it, the coordination
Exactly.
of these things.
Mhm.
Do you want to share some thoughts on what happened in the last election and what you see going on with corporate power in the US?
Well, the definition of fascism, as most people as it is properly understood, I think, is that, you know, it was you know, the private companies were still private companies, but the government controlled them, right?
Yes.
So, you know, this is kind of this weird extension of that, in which they're in total collusion. You know, it's not that, you know, the private companies didn't want to be, no, don't do this to us, government. But you know, no, yeah, government, you're gonna
Yeah.
help you,
Give
right?
it to me. Give it to me hard.
Exactly. So it's this kind of, you know, uh, uh, it's the very fascism that people
Yeah.
are freaking out about. You know, right? It's definitely, you know, companies. You know, I do believe they manipulated the votes for the states. You know, the companies manipulated the votes for states, and social manipulation, announcing the Biden win before it was even really legit. Is that my understanding of it?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, we could say that. We could say that.
right. Yeah. So yeah, like I don't know if a single person really believes that Biden earned it, earned the presidency, but the people who wanted Trump out kind of embraced it. Kind of just,
Of course.
so it's like, like, it's weird. In 2012, that was Obama's second time.
Yeah.
I voted Libertarian, didn't get that vote. The 2016, well, I didn't really. None of the candidates gelled for me. I wasn't at the time convinced of Trump, so I didn't vote altogether. This time, I voted for Trump because I wanted him in the White House for, because of the anti-political correctness reasons, and so it was more of a strategic kind of a thing. I
Yes.
preferred him over the other, and to this day, I still have not voted for a candidate that won. So
Unfortunately.
right,
So
yeah, but
just quickly, you didn't feel the Johnson back in 2016, the Gary Johnson and the Libertarian candidate?
no, I did not. I voted for him in 2008.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Did I say I voted for him in 2012?
Yeah. You said 2012. I don't know who the Libertarian candidate was
I think it
2012.
was 2012. Okay. So that was my mistake. I'm remembering it wrong. Um, Actually, no. Wasn't Gary Johnson in the 2016 one?
He was 2016.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting some of the details wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I voted for Johnson in 2012.
Right, okay.
I did not vote for him or anyone in 2016.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, Johnson was really kind of bending the knee to kind of the democratic sort of kind of ideas. He was like, I'm open to, universal health care, that kind of thing, or no, not universal health care. It was what was it? Universal basic income. That was it.
Right,
So,
UBI. Okay.
sneaking in all these kind of anti-libertarian ideas. So I did not want this guy, and I hated Bill Weld, and and this time I didn't think the libertarian candidate was any good. I think she was a bit of a virtue signaler, and I don't know. That's just the way it kind of felt to me. I realized you had Spike Cohen on one of the podcasts, didn't you?
Yeah. We interviewed Spike twice on the 10K Run podcast.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So I didn't mean to be rude there, but
no, I felt the same.
Okay, yeah, well, but I didn't. Jo Jorgensen, something was off about her. It's like, okay, she had most of the right ideas, but so do I. So why not me? But it's like, she was kind of quick to do the whole we'll go to the vigil for George Floyd kind of a thing, but it was like a very political sort of a attempt at a political move. I think it just didn't seem in any way sincere, and so it just felt like she was just I didn't know if her motives were really individualist, libertarian in spirit. I think like if you don't address the wokeness of the culture, you're libertarianism has this kind of letting in the woke crowd kind of a problem, especially the Libertarian Party, in my personal opinion.
Sure.
Right. So it's just letting these people who want to promote that way of thinking, but it's kind of coming at the cost of real libertarian ideas that say, screw this, I live how I want, screw the political correctness thing. So.
No, I agree. We had so the podcast I do is the 10K Run podcast, available on all platforms. Anybody's watching, it's moved to Tuesdays.
The last one.
Yeah. You were there. Thanks for joining us, my friend. And we had Spike Cohen because my co-host actually worked for the Jo Jorgensen campaign as a Twitter manager. I think I could say that now. I think it's I'll have to double check and see if I have to cut that out.
Yeah.
But eventually he moved over to the Spike Cohen, and that's how he got to meet him.
Sure.
And I completely agree with you, but I understood it as well because.
Right. Well, if anybody wants to confront me on this, maybe on you guys' show, come on, feel free to rip on me. We'll duke it out.
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree. I thought Jo Jorgensen was kind of weak. Spike Cohen is a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah.
But I understand he was sucking down a lot more from the left than the right. Right. But I understood why, because the Trump train was impenetrable. There was no way the libertarians were going to pull the Trump vote. They had to pull from the left.
Right.
And I understand it. That's kind of been my criticism. I thought they were too, like you say, too woke, too progressive. The infamous tweets supporting BLM.
There was that, and there was also the other thing. It's not enough to not be racist. You have to be an anti-racist or something.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's even out here, the Libertarian Party in the UK. We had Jo Jorgensen to come and speak at our convention in December. It was supposed to be in December. It was canceled because of COVID. But when that tweet went out, everybody was kind of looking at each other like, "What the hell is this?" And they actually reached out to her campaign. It's like, you need to clarify this position.
Right. Yeah. Because here's the thing. It's like it's about thought policing.
Yes.
Right. Because if you decide that you're on a campaign against anti-racism, it's one of those, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail kind of a thing. Like,
exactly.
Everything looks like racism. So, so there's a guy, there's, I don't know who Eric July is. He's,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. But he said, racism is really just a bad idea,
Yes.
Right. So so it's not, it's just something you just want to kind of, philosophically avoid. But the problem is, that's the thing about libertarianism, is that you need to let people make these kind of, mistakes, or, just, and people kind of interact in their own peaceful way to avoid people who, well, if you know how it is. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I completely.
right.
For me, I'd rather know who the racists are.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like, okay,
Right.
some, a Richard Spencer, or I don't know who the Klan guy is, David Duke or something.
Right. Yeah.
I rather know, okay, this is a go. Okay, right. I don't really want to deal with these people.
And here's the thing: if you're going to say you're anti-racist, are you going to be willing to confront the racism in China or any other? Asia is some of the most racist places ever. So,
it's true.
Right. They don't even like other Asians.
Actually, the flatmate that I had when I was in London, he got a job out in Beijing. So he's Italian, but born and raised in the UK.
Right.
And he talks about exactly that the indigenous Chinese don't like the fact that he's there, and they give him shit all the time. Right. They're very, very xenophobic.
Right. They're xenophobic. Well, they're definitely, they'll treat them bad at worst, but at best, you'll never be a part of the culture.
Correct.
Right.
And you would know the Japanese are very much like that.
The Japanese are incredibly like that. You will, like, if you're a white, you could be a permanent resident, a citizen there even, but you will never really be one of them. Yeah. And that is like the wake-up call you need to just abandon this need to just fit into a culture. Just be your own individual. That's my advice.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you in terms of the Libertarian Party, and my co-host would probably agree with you too. That, well,
I don't mind a discussion on that one with the both of you. If you got some disagreements with me, go have at it. But
no, I think we're both on board. I mean, my friend, he was biting his tongue. There were so many things he wanted to say, but he couldn't because he's working for the campaign.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, this is why I don't want to be tied to such a campaign. I want to talk smack about just about anyone. So, just don't tie yourself down. Just be your own agent. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he might want to get into politics later on, so he's also keeping that in consideration.
Right.
But I'm completely. So, what would be the libertarian position on marriage? We got about. Let's just do a couple more minutes.
Right. Sure. Well, in terms of the strict legal side of things, state governments. If the government must exist, it should stay out of it.
Right.
It shouldn't factor in whatever. Right. Yeah, I'm pretty hardline about that one.
Would you go as far as polygamy? Multiple wives?
No. I know there's like a lot of logistical problems with polygamy and stuff like that, but I think it's more of an economics problem. You do not have the resources and your own personal time to spend so much on this kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not saying never do this, or you should definitely try it out or whatever. But, it's like it depends on the capacity of the people. It's like or on a case by case basis. I'd say maybe and sometimes who knows what people are doing behind closed doors, right? Yeah. They won't say they're for polygamy, but what happens behind. But also on the libertarian position, when it comes to marriage, in getting away from the political side or the law side, now we're talking philosophically, maybe you don't want to be socially tied down this way. Right. Right. Or, if you're considering it, then make sure it's some, the relationship is workable for that kind of thing. Be sure you're going your own way, whether you're coupled with someone or if you're not.
Yes. Yeah. Maintain your autonomy, be your own person. Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Right. So advice to men is you are not her death object. You are not her servant.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, that's as simple as I can make it.
Fantastic. Vernon, we've done over an hour. My friend, we always have a fantastic, lively conversation. You're a fantastic guest, my friend.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, anything that you're working on, anything coming up, and the easiest way people could get in touch with you.
The easiest way people get in touch with me, well,
I do have all your links below, but you know,
yeah, sure, right, yeah. Well, I'm on Gab, like I said before, and uh, I'm not leaving YouTube anytime soon, so you can probably reach out to me there. Oh, I have a Subscribe Star account that you should definitely check out, and I've added 2 more tiers. So one tier is a $20 one this time instead of the usual $4 one, where you can get your name thanked out loud in a given one of my videos. You could send me a short melody, and I'll turn it into a short piece of music if you're a creative part. And I can't even remember our own tiers. Well, just a moment.
He's gonna pull it up, guys.
Yeah, right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right. So, and you can also have early exclusive access to any music I create.
Fantastic.
And I will draw a lighthearted cartoon of you.
Oh, really? That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know you were into an artist kind of cartooning sort of thing.
Next time we'll showcase some of my art.
Yeah, sure. Right, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do that.
Sure. And there's an $8 tier. I'll keep this short, I promise.
Sure, no, that's fine.
Yeah, in which you can play a game with me, and if you win, you can get one of those benefits from the $20 tier.
That's a computer game. You're on like Discord or Stream or
maybe you'll evolve into that one, but I'm not much of a computer gamer. I'm talking something like chess or Magic the Gathering over a webcam.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That's brilliant. I like
that.
Chess
you can play online, but
yeah. Chess.com and these things.
Yeah. But it's mainly to have a good time playing games. We get to set some time. We'll play something. If you win, you get a benefit.
I like it. I do believe I have. Actually, I can scroll down. I believe I have your Subscribe Star. Yes, I do. It's in the link below, guys. Vernon, my friend, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Fantastic. We'll have to do it again when we get some time.
Absolutely.
So for everybody listening, I just want to thank everybody for joining us and for listening, leaving comments. Please be sure to like this video, share it with those in your community. Hey, Brian, I'll see you there. I'll see you on Tuesday for the 10K Run podcast. And thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, guys. And thank you.